Just tell us the story of Jerry Moss contacting you and how that came about.
He called me one night from LA and explained the situation. And the situation was that Denny and Leon had put together a tour with Joe, and that Jerry Moss had decided to make a movie of the tour to go along with a live album. So they were to be hand in glove, basically. The two things were going to work together to promote each other. And having finished the tour, and Denny and Leon having reviewed the two concerts that were recorded, one at the beginning of the tour in New York and one at the end in Los Angeles, they decided that the performances on those two particular nights were not strong enough for an album to be released of the end result. So that meant that Jerry didn't have a movie, basically, because without the record, without the soundtrack, he was buggered, really. And he said that he had suggested to them that but possibly they could get a third party in to try and rescue the content, somebody who hadn't heard it before and therefore was not emotionally involved in any way, really. And the three of them had agreed on me as being the possible person to do that. And so that was what the call was about. So I was very happy to get involved, and I jumped on a plane. I went and listened the next day to both the concerts, and in my view, they were quite right about one of them. The one at the end of the tour, which was recorded in Los Angeles, wasn't very good at all. However, the one in New York, which was, I think, one of the first, if not the first, I thought was fantastic. It had incredible energy, and there were a couple of little problems with it, but in the main, nothing that couldn't be resolved. And so I set about making a double album out of that concert.
When you say you thought it was fantastic, so musically, what did you think? I mean, this is the first time you'd heard it. I thought
the band. I thought Joe was fantastic. I thought the band were really good. There were a couple of little odd moments that one could cover up or cough over, you know. But in the general impression to me was that it was fantastic. It was a great live album. It's what a live album should be. It's a really good performance. It was very exciting. The audience were very receptive. I thought it was great. I didn't see what their problem was, to be honest with you. So I mixed it. I added the choir again. So there were a lot of rather odd people singing along with the original people. Anybody who was around, it seemed, got in the choir, whether they could sing or not. So that was a bit of an unruly mess. So I replaced the choir with the original people, not with other people, but with the original people who were actually the singers booked to do it, Rita Coolidge being one. And so that was the biggest problem with it, and that got resolved by replacing them, and made the album and delivered it. Well, before I delivered it, I called Joe, because I realised that no one had actually involved him in any of these decisions that were being made on his behalf. And I thought, well, the least I can do is have him come and listen to it and have him approve it before I give it to anybody, really. So I got hold of him, and he came to the studio and sat in the back of the control room while I played him the record. He barely spoke. He wasn't in the best of spirits, I must be honest. He was rather sad. And stood up at the end of it and said it was okay with him, and walked out. And so at least I got his approval anyway. I mean, and I've never said this to anybody, but if he'd have said that he didn't approve of it, I would have erased what I'd done and got on a plane and gone home, because to me the most important thing always is the artist. It's got to be, and it's their life, for God's sake, that's on the line when you're making records or doing anything with them, if it comes to that. Anyway, he agreed. I got Denny and Leon down, they listened to it and they approved it, and then I delivered it to Jerry, and the rest is history. And then I worked on the sound for the movie after that.